My passion for travel has always been about connecting with the human spirit, about reaching beyond the surface of a place and truly understanding the people who call it home. For me, travel isn't just about ticking destinations off a list or collecting stamps in a passport. It's about the stories, the laughter, the shared moments with strangers who become friends, and the realization that no matter where we come from, we all share the same hopes and dreams. It's not just about seeing new places or snapping photos for memories. It's about feeling the pulse of a city, the rhythm of daily life, and the quiet moments that reveal the heart of a culture. I used to believe that a passport was the ultimate key to understanding the world, a magical document that could unlock any border and open doors to new experiences. But that belief was challenged in a way I never expected when I met Jihai. Jihai was a young woman whose eyes seemed to hold entire lifetimes of stories. Stories of longing, resilience, and quiet strength. There was a depth in her gaze that made me realize how much I had yet to learn. Our paths crossed in a quiet coffee shop, not in some faraway exotic land, but in a city that prided itself on freedom and opportunity. The air was filled with the aroma of fresh coffee and the gentle hum of conversation, but our meeting felt like stepping into another world. As I shared tales of spontaneous adventures, of hopping on trains without a plan, of wandering through foreign streets at midnight, Jihai listened with a quiet intensity. Her focus made me realize that what I took for granted, the ability to explore freely, was something she could only dream of. My curiosity about North Korea had always been fueled by headlines and documentaries, but I wanted to understand the reality behind the news. I sought Jihai out, hoping to hear a human story, one that would go beyond politics and statistics. What she shared with me was a raw, unfiltered glimpse into a world where even the most basic freedoms were denied, a world where every word was measured, every action watched. And trust was a rare and precious thing. Jihi's childhood was shaped by silence and fear. She grew up in an environment where curiosity could be dangerous, where asking questions could put your family at risk, and where dreams of seeing the world were quietly tucked away, never spoken aloud. Hearing her story changed me. It made me realize how much I had taken for granted. The simple act of crossing a border, the freedom to be curious, to ask questions, to dream. Jihai's journey opened my eyes to the invisible barriers that still exist in our world, and it forever changed how I see not just the world, but my own place within it. Jihai described her North Korean childhood as one ruled by fear, not anger. From her earliest memories, fear was woven into the fabric of daily life, an invisible force that shaped every thought, every action, and every relationship. Even as a child, she learned to keep her feelings hidden, to never let her guard down, because a single mistake could have devastating consequences for her and her family. Children were taught to worship their leaders, with portraits in every building, a constant reminder of absolute power. The faces of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il watched from every classroom, every office, every home, their eyes seeming to follow you, silently demanding loyalty and obedience. The cult of personality was inescapable, and reverence for the leaders was drilled into children from the moment they could speak. Questioning anything, even privately, felt dangerous. Whispers were risky, and even a fleeting look of doubt could be reported. The fear of being overheard was ever present, making every conversation a potential threat. There was no room for individuality. Conformity was survival. Uniforms, synchronized movements, and collective chants erased personal identity. To stand out was to invite suspicion, so everyone learned to blend in, to move with the crowd, to never draw attention. The state chose your path, your job, your future. Travel was unthinkable. From a young age, children were told what they would become, where they would work, and who they would serve. Dreams and ambitions were replaced by assignments and orders, and the idea of leaving your assigned place was simply unimaginable. Borders were prison walls, guarded and impenetrable. The outside world was not just distant, it was forbidden. Armed soldiers and barbed wire made escape impossible, and even the thought of crossing the border was enough to bring terror. Information was tightly controlled. No internet, no foreign books, only state propaganda. Radios and newspapers told only one story, the story the government wanted people to believe. Curiosity about the outside world was dangerous, and even listening to a foreign broadcast could mean severe punishment. North Korea was painted as a paradise, the outside world as corrupt and dangerous. Propaganda posters and television shows depicted smiling citizens and bountiful harvests, while stories of foreign countries were filled with warnings of chaos and suffering. Neighbors watched neighbors, children were encouraged to report parents. The surveillance state reached into every home, turning friends and family into informants. Trust was a luxury few could afford. Trust was rare, paranoia constant. Every interaction was shadowed by suspicion, and people learned to keep their thoughts to themselves, never knowing who might be listening. A careless word or forgotten pin could destroy a family. Even the smallest mistake, forgetting to wear a loyalty badge or saying the wrong thing, could lead to interrogation, punishment, or worse. Families lived in constant anxiety, always aware that their fate could change in an instant. Life was lived on a knife's edge, with every desire for connection suppressed by fear. In this world, love and friendship were overshadowed by the need to survive, and the longing for freedom was a secret carried deep within the heart. I asked Jihai what she was taught about America, curious about the stories she grew up hearing. She explained America was the villain in every story, blamed for all suffering, always threatening invasion, never shown in a positive light. Propaganda depicted Americans as monstrous, greedy, and deeply immoral, painting them as the ultimate enemy. The media showed only chaos and disaster, reinforcing the idea that North Koreans were lucky to be protected from such turmoil. With no alternative information or outside sources, these lies became her reality, shaping her worldview. The regime's message was clear: the outside world was terrifying, and escape was not just dangerous, but utterly foolish. It was psychological control at its most powerful, making their prison seem like a protective shield from the world. I asked Jihai about her first impression of America. She said it wasn't the sights but the feeling, walking down a street unafraid, no one watching her. In North Korea, she was always performing for authorities. Here, anonymity was liberating. She saw people expressing real emotions, not staged for the state. It was like stepping into a world where everyone wrote their own story. The freedom to choose what to eat, wear, study, was overwhelming and exhilarating. For the first time, she had to ask herself what she wanted. The absence of a clear enemy or dictated purpose was disorienting. Her journey was not just to a new place but into a new sense of self. Freedom, she realized, was a complex internal journey. Jihai's greatest pain wasn't just her escape, but the slow, dawning realization of everything she'd been denied for so long. It wasn't the act of leaving that hurt the most, it was the knowledge of a world she'd never been allowed to imagine, a world that had always existed just beyond her reach. As she explored the internet for the first time, Jihai's tears weren't for the tragedies or injustices she saw online, but for the simple joys and freedoms she'd never known. She wept for the music she'd never heard, the books she'd never read, and the friendships she'd never formed. The world was so much bigger, richer, and more complicated than she'd ever been told. Growing up, her dreams were shaped by necessity. She never dared to wish for more than a full meal, a warm bed, or a day without fear. Ambition was a luxury for others. Her childhood was about survival, not hope. Watching Americans debate over endless choices, what to eat, where to live, who to become, felt almost unreal. For Jihai, the very idea of having options was miraculous. She marveled at the abundance, but also felt a pang of loss for all the years she'd spent not knowing such choices existed. Yet, as she navigated her new life, Jihai learned that freedom was not a perfect paradise. It brought its own set of challenges, uncertainty, loneliness, and the weight of responsibility for every decision. The open road ahead was both exhilarating and terrifying. She saw poverty and division in America, a stark contrast to the simple narrative she'd been taught. The country she'd imagined as flawless was, in reality, filled with its own struggles and inequalities. The truth was far more complex than she'd ever expected, but in this new world, Jihai discovered something precious: the freedom to speak openly, to question, to confront problems without fear. Here, people could gather, share their pain, and seek solutions together. This openness was a gift she'd never known. The hardest truth, though, was the one she carried alone. She could never truly go back. The world she'd found was hers alone, and she could never share it with those she loved most. The distance between her new life and her old one was unbridgeable. Her family remained behind, trapped in the same limitations she'd escaped. She imagined them worrying, perhaps believing she was suffering, never knowing the bittersweet truth of her freedom. The gap between her world and theirs was a constant ache, a reminder of everything she'd gained and everything she'd lost. Ji's freedom came at a steep price. She had traded her roots, her family, and her past for a future filled with uncertainty and hope. In the end, her liberation was bittersweet, a new beginning forever marked by the sorrow of separation, and the knowledge that some dreams come true, only at the cost of others. Ji's story made me rethink my own life. Complaints about travel now seem trivial. I'd always seen it as a right, not a privilege. My passport became a symbol of unearned freedom. The true privilege is the ability to choose, to leave, to return, to be curious. Our normal is someone else's impossible dream. Her journey reminded me to be grateful for the open world I inhabit. Now I travel with more awareness and humility, appreciating every small interaction. Ji's story opened my eyes, not just to North Korea but to my own blessings. Meeting Ji affirmed that travel is about building bridges, not just crossing borders. Our worlds were different, but we connected through shared hopes and sorrows. Listening to others' stories breaks down walls of prejudice and propaganda. Her escape and my travels both reveal how interconnected our world truly is. The isolation of North Koreans is a loss for all humanity. Every shared story, every open-minded journey fights that isolation. Understanding is the antidote to hate. Kindness dissolves propaganda. Our passports are invitations to connect, learn, and grow. Whether we travel far or just across town, every journey builds a bridge. Let's honor stories like Ji's by cherishing and using our freedom to understand one another.